Cool. We're on. Yeah, another episode of Red River Podcast where we're going to talk pure fucking nonsense. Um, we were talking about doing that episode with Joe where we're going to do the one hit wonder. I mean,
Yeah.
it's such a weird, dumb title to call it one hit wonders, but our schedules keep going in different places. So hopefully we'll get to record that this weekend. So for right now, I just figured let's just talk. You posted something today on the Red
Mm.
River group, and a lot of times, you could start a conversation topic on the Red River group that you could just basically riff on for like 10, 15 minutes. So, I was like, it would be funny to do like this week in Facebook as an episode.
That's what kept flashing through my head when you told me about this. Like This Week in Football that I used to watch
Yeah.
growing up.
Well, this week in baseball too.
Yes, that's it.
That's
Baseball.
it. Yeah.
That had a dope theme song too, by the way.
I loved it because then they it was like a lot of bloopers, like a lot of like people hitting pop-ups that, landed in like a hot dog or
Yeah.
some shit.
Well, that some Johnny Bench hitting tips.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then yeah, I'm like now I'm transported into this week in baseball. So I figured that sounds fucking really dumb. So let's just go with that theme for right now, because there are some topics that we covered. Like today, you posted something about the Black Sabbath record, right?
Yeah. Well, I was listening to I'm sure anyone that listens to this show know about it, but it's the one record that Sabbath recorded with Ian Gillan from Deep Purple singing, you know. I guess is that pre-Dio, post-Dio? I don't fucking
No, that was
remember.
post. That I think that was the record
Post.
right after. Yeah.
And they were super fucked up by now. Like the song Trashed on there, which is one of my favorite Sabbath songs. It's about them like rolling one of their Rolls Royces or something at this mansion they were recording in. But some really great songs on it. And it is the worst sounding fucking thing I ever heard in my life, probably for a major to put out. It's ridiculously atrocious. Have
Uh,
you heard that record? Are you familiar with the you
no,
like
not
that one?
really, but I'm gonna look it up right now. So I want to see who
It's
recorded
like
it.
infamously horrible. I'm sure they were all just on massive amounts of coke and whatever, but they I even any attempts to I think they redid it on Spotify or whatever, but the masters must be shit to begin with or
I just
something
I
because
just
there's
I just
nothing to be done.
I just want to shout out the producer, for doing such
Yes.
a good job.
Get him some
Uh
smoke.
do you know who the producer was?
Matt Sneap.
No, Black Sabbath. So I think this is where
That
they were.
makes so much sense.
I think this is where they're like, "Hey, we could do this on our own," and I
Save a
guess
few
not.
quid.
So the one single. So this was 1983. So following
Yeah.
the departure of vocalist Ronnie James Dio and drummer Vinny Appice, Sabbath was in doubt.
Hmm.
The band switched management to Don Arden, which is Sharon's fucking dad.
Yep.
Uh the band had considered vocalists such as Robert Plant and David Coverdale before
Wow.
setting, right? That's
I know
ambitious.
Plant and Iommi were cool, I think, coming
Yeah.
up.
So before settling on him, Tommy claimed, Iommi claimed, that the band had an audition tape from a then unknown Michael Bolton, which is probably true because like
Yeah,
before he popped off, he had like a quasi I don't want to say hair metal, but he had a lot of hair. You know what? He was one of the first guys to rock like a skullet.
totally.
Like his hair was going on the top, but in the back
Hmm.
it wasn't. In the back it was like plentiful.
Yeah,
So
he's got
he
an infamous skull.
yeah.
But he was always one of those guys, like you could tell, like he was just a gun for a hire, got a, golden throat, whatever. Desmond Child, whoever wrote, like, I can't, Michael Bolton probably has zero, like, care in what he sings as long as it's gonna, like,
I guess
move his
so.
career along.
I guess so because he
Yeah.
started off doing some rock stuff, and then from there is how am I supposed to live
Mm,
without you?
brutal,
you know, I forgot
brutal.
all those songs, but I would have to look them up. But if you remember our episode with the Lindenhurst podcast, I did mention Steel Bars was one of my guilty pleasure songs.
That's
And
right,
and if I remember correctly, I think Vito added it to like the playlist of like the picks that we, and I was like, "Oh my God, Steel Bar." It was embarrassing to just read. I'm like,
man.
I did say that. So but yeah, I guess they produced it and they were probably just like, listen, they were, when you are at the top of the mountain and then you come
Mm.
sliding back down and you figure this, like they had Ozzy and then they kicked him out and they're like, all right, we're gonna end up with Dio. Then they put out those two great records with Dio, who
Some
was,
people's favorite version of Sabbath,
yeah,
prefer by hands down. But go
for
ahead.
sure. And like, but like not many people were able to do that. And so then they part ways and they're probably like, you know what, we could do it again. Like whatever Van Halen was thinking when they got Gary Sharon, they're like,
We could do this with anybody probably
yeah,
in front of this band.
yeah, yeah,
You know?
totally. And then they're probably like, you know what, we don't need no bloody producer. I'm
Yeah.
a producer. And lo and behold, you say it's the worst sounding record. So
It's insanely bad. It's
yeah.
just it's hard to believe it got released and stuff. And this is like about to drop into a deep downward spiral of Sabbath with the era when it was just Iommi at one point putting out like Seventh Star. When it was Black Sabbath featuring Tony Iommi, it would say on the cover.
Yeah.
They had Ray Gillen singing for a minute. The guy that was Badlands, I believe.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. What Ray had that situation. So I didn't really know. Do you know the Badlands situation?
what about having him having HIV and infecting people?
Yeah, yeah. Because
Yeah.
I
I mean, I
was
know
like,
some what I heard, but
because I was always wondering why that record was so hard to find. The
such
first
a good fucking record too.
I yeah, first of all, not to be completely the oldest people in the room right now, but when I heard Badlands, maybe we heard Dreams in the Dark, maybe that was like the first single.
It
And I was
was
like, it was so good. I'm like, oh, the guy from like Jake E. Lee from like the Ozzy band, and he's
sure.
doing this, and they did the Winter's Call was another really cool like Zeppelinish song from that record. And I remember getting the cassette and being like, this is really like I didn't think it would be good. And then it's hard to find. I think it's only on YouTube. There's no streaming because I think it was like if any of the money goes, like it's supposed to go to his like victims, or it was some like weird shit that like somebody did a webisode on YouTube, and I was like, oh, I guess that's what happened. But if
Jakey
you,
Lee is my favorite Ozzy guitar player, and that guy just had a string of shit. Like,
yeah.
look, like getting fucked out of songwriting credits because we're all supposed to believe Ozzy wrote the riff to Bark at the Moon. He comes out with Badlands. Now this shit happens, like
Yeah.
rough.
I love that you ever see the clips now of like I think Sharon and her kids and Ozzy do like a podcast
Yes,
and
I
like
haven't
these
seen it, but
it's like yo, you know what's funny? I mean it's hard to say what other people should do, but like how much is enough? Like how much like notoriety and fame? Like at a certain point you're basically like bringing Ozzy out who has no idea where he is at any
no.
time whatsoever. That lady's face is completely, I don't know why people do that to their faces,
Yeah,
honestly,
that's a
and
sickness, man. But yeah, I think the three of them will, as long as like Ozzy's semi-conscious, will roll him out into whatever studio
yeah.
that's possible. It's
And the
just
one
let the
daughter
man
never does
chill.
anything. The one daughter, Amy, never does anything. And
Yeah.
she's like a songwriter. She had a song in a video that I forgot under what name. It might have been Amy Osborne. And
Mhm.
it was really good. Like I heard it, I was like, oh, this is great compared to like whatever her sister. They were all, yeah, it's just a funny thing, man. You watch the podcast and listen, I get it. Fine, you're there, you're a public figure, but at what point does Jack Osborne just say like, I'm just gonna do something without my parents or something, like
Yeah. There's just too many. I mean, I'm saying it as we're talking on a podcast, but
yeah.
Jesus Christ, some of these celebrities, I mean, we don't need any more. We don't
No.
need any more red.
Yeah, trust me. If anyone
Yeah.
was listening to this podcast right now, we probably wouldn't be saying it. So luckily,
But
they're
back to
not.
the production. You had you
I
mentioned the
did.
Social D albums.
There was a couple of things. So, when I first heard, I'm trying to think of like maybe I first heard Social Distortion, who just played Pier 17 for a couple of shows. Mike Ness, Cancer, like I think he's in remission. So he's got a nice second act on his way. His son's band was opening the shows.
Nice.
He's posting about his grandkids. So he's like like an old school, Social D started in like 79. So,
Yeah.
you see this guy like as like an elder statesman now. But I remember listening to the older records and thinking like there's just no bottom to this. It was just so paper thin.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until 1996 White Light, White Heat, White Trash where they talked about like the production and he's like I think he said he's like I just want my Les Paul when we play live to sound the way I wanted it to sound like that on the record, and I think they finally hit it on in 1996. I think that's when that record came out. But the ones before it, like the self-titled, Prison Bound, even something somewhere between Heaven and Hell, which was a little bit better,
Mhm.
production wise. But a lot of those things, man, it just really like the production was just not good. And when you hear it, another band too, I will say the Replacements. Like if you hear like
Ah,
Tim
yeah.
or like
Good one.
those old albums, you're like you want to hear Bastards of Young or like Left of the Dial, and it's so paper thin, and
Yeah.
you're like, what
The
the
lack of
fuck?
low end in that maybe it isn't like a thing of the era or something like that. Because I also when you were mentioning that about no low end, I was thinking the Cult Love, not their
Mm.
first out. Well, no, that's not their first album. I think Dreamtime before that. But
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah,
I love that record. Every song is amazing on it and shit. But there is nothing down low on it. I
yeah.
mean, nothing. It's so high and tinny and
High
yeah,
and tinny, yeah, like those
yeah,
records, and like when you see the band live, you're like, oh, okay, this is but you wonder why. Like there were other bands making records that didn't sound like that.
yeah.
So like I don't know. Gotta look.
Reagan,
Maybe
probably
what?
Reagan or something.
I was gonna
Thanks,
say,
thanks, Reagan.
I was gonna say maybe Black Sabbath and Iommi produced those records too. I gotta get my Wikipedia on and see who did
I want
those.
that Iommi sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You ever hear Born Again? We want that.
And Metallica beats them all because they made a horrible record that sounds horrible. Saint Anger. So
Yeah, they were like, we want to purposely sound like this. Speaking of Bob Rock, I know like to further go down the Facebook rabbit hole that we've been on,
mm,
we were mentioning the Motley Crue show at Bowery Ballroom.
yeah.
Some of our friends were there: Tom Bennett, Nick Greystone, Michelle
Mhm.
Rizzo, and today I was listening to the Eddie Trunk podcast, and he had the band on. Talk. It was after the show, so and
Right.
they were talking about like the new song, and I
Eddie
don't.
pretending he likes it. What was that like?
Well, Bob Rock, I bring that up because you mentioned Bob Rock, and he was involved in the making of it.
Bob
You know,
Rock is their George Martin, right?
I
Bob Rock.
guess so. Well,
Like the
he
Beatles to George Martin, the Crew to Bob Rock.
but he did a great job when you first heard Dr. Feelgood. You were
Oh
like,
yeah.
everyone was like, oh, like, because you hear that riff, dun 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 dun, like that
That's
sounded
why
cool.
Metallica hired him for the
Yeah,
Black record was that fucking track, that intro.
yeah, for sure. And things since then obviously probably not as good, but yeah. So I guess I think. Yo, it's funny. So when Eddie Trunk was describing the show at the Bowery, I was gonna
Mhm.
text you this because he's like, "Oh man, you guys were called 1981, and it was just so cool, and you guys were having fun, and it was so raw, it was so punk rock." And I just wanted to just be like, "Yo, you're not allowed to say that.
Punk rock.
Don't ever in your life
Yeah. A guy that
Save.
probably gets bent out of shape if a punk band would get into the Rock and Roll Hall
Oh,
of Fame. Going to use the term punk rock.
yeah. Like you're not like you're a fucking herb. You can't use punk rock. You just say metal. Why can't you just be like, oh my God, it was so metal, but it was like, no, it was like punk rock. It's like, fuck do you know about not
Was he
even
like, you guys sounded like shit, but at least you played live.
yeah. No,
No
he was like,
backing tracks.
yeah, no, he did. Yeah, he would never
No.
say that to them.
Like
Um,
Vince, you suck, but at least it's
uh,
you up there, man.
yeah, so yeah, so he brought that up and then he talked about the song and it was cool. It was like a fun 40-minute conversation. And so Nikki Six brought up he brought up the song and he said, we like bands like Refused. And there was another band that he mentioned that
What?
it just like blew my wig. It was Refused and someone else that just like I wish I could have rewound. And so he said Tommy was like trying to give like John Five an idea. He's like, oh, can you do something like this? So maybe Tommy doesn't play the guitar that well, and John's like this, like this, like that, and then that's how the song came about.
John
And
Five's the name of the computer they told to write it
yeah,
then,
yes,
or is it an
Johnny
actual
Five.
guy?
Johnny Five's alive, right?
Johnny Five's the
That's
holy shit.
shout out to all my short circuit fans, all two of
Because
you.
that fucking uh that song sounds like it was written by a computer. Like it has to be. Like it
So
doesn't.
so he
I don't
said
know.
they mentioned that in this little piece here, and somebody said about AI. They basically said that all four of them were in the room. He's like a song like that only comes from like four people sitting in a circle, and they were very adamant about that. So I mean, I believe it. I guess John
So
Five's
like
amazing.
one
John
guy
Five's
said
amazing.
what they want to do. One guy typed on the computer. One guy turned it on. One guy used the mouse. I don't know.
Then
I'm
they
breaking child. I listen. I grew up with the crew. Love the crew. Part of my DNA growing up. But I mean, it's just. I mean, they have no self-respect. I mean,
they
at
don't they
all.
don't they
Like,
don't because like so they ask Vince, what did you think of the song, Vince? She's like, oh, it's pretty good. Like I once I figured out what it was about. Like he had no, they were like, here, just do this. And he said, I went in with Bob Rock and Bob's like, hey, try this, try that. Bob's always right. He's like, now I like it. It's pretty good. Pretty and we're just like, oh yeah, I don't but I get it. What are you gonna do? This guy's just going to work. So good for him. But
yeah,
yeah, so we talked about the Bowery Ballroom. Another thing that I was going to bring up was some of the releases. Um, a band that I know that you don't really mess with, Hot Water Music.
he's a I've never heard. I always thought this is how little I know, and you're gonna laugh. Probably. I'm like, for some reason, I thought they were like one of those like Grateful Dead kind of
Oh wow,
bands.
no.
Maybe it was
Uh,
like, is there? You know what it was? Probably that band Hot Tuna. I heard Hot Water Music. I was like,
yo,
oh, that's probably
you
some
want to hear
old ass
something?
shit.
You want to hear how we're all connected? Yesterday, we're driving into this show. We played out in Brooklyn yesterday, and my bass player, he's like, yeah, somebody kept telling me to listen to Hot Tuna. He's like, what the fuck is that? And I was like, I think that's a jam band. So yesterday we mentioned Hot Tuna for whatever reason, and they're a jam band, right?
Yeah, yeah, like
Okay, yeah.
Fish, Dead, all that shit. Yeah,
I just know those names like Widespread Panic, Hot Tuna, the String Cheese Incident. Like names that I'm just like, I don't know what this is, but I think I know where Government
yeah.
Mule, like shit you see in like a festival.
Oh man, I'm
But how
sure all amazing musicians, but just you naming off all those bands one after another is like, I'm like
yeah,
gonna
nah,
have a seizure.
yeah, me too. So in the week's new releases that we covered, the band Hot Water Music, who's been around since like, geez, probably like 90 95,
Mhm.
um, put out a new record. And what I like about this record, Vows, is they did something that I like that bands have been doing, which is features. There's a lot of features. People are like, hey, the singer of Turnstile, the singer of City and Color, like all these like people joining in on this record for a band that's been around for
Wu-Tang?
95. 30, yeah, 30 years almost, which is fantastic. I really like it. So, I mean, I personally, do I think you're gonna like it? I don't think you would like this band whatsoever. It's just not gonna be your thing.
No,
I don't think so.
like, okay, give me a, if you were gonna just pitch it to somebody, like, what would you describe it as? So and so
Uh,
meets.
so the early stuff, there's the
Mhm.
sweet spot for the people like they are a band's band. So they're like your favorite band's your favorite band's favorite band type shit. So their first like 4 5 albums are like the shit that it's like, okay, these are the influential things. And then from there, they kind of like fell off. And then they did some cool stuff, like it's hit or miss like later on and stuff.
Right.
And they cleaned up, like the earlier records are just like gruff, like almost like Cannibal Corpse style vocals with like, rock music guitars.
Oh yeah,
Like if you
I'm
heard the
intrigued.
vocals, and both singers, Chris and Chuck, both sang that way. So when you heard them, it was just like and I'll tell you this, just like Alice in Chains had a lot of
Mhm.
bastard kids, Hot Water Music has a lot of kids all over the
Okay,
place. You know, they
check it out.
they they perfected this style of like punk rock that people just where it's like it's almost like Fugazi with Cannibal Corpse vocals. It's like that. It's like get cool guitar parts, but with very gruff vocals.
That
But
sounds fucking great. I'm gonna check it out.
later on, they cleaned up, and it's hit or miss. But I love it. But I get it. So and another thing that we talked about with our boy Davy Bright was the new Ghostface
Yeah,
record.
yeah. So, what did
Uh,
you think? You heard the whole thing?
I listened to two more songs since that conversation.
Okay.
And so far I like it. Like even Champion Sound, which was like the reggae production and stuff like
Hmm.
that. I liked it. I really liked the Kanye West song. I thought it sounds like a Kanye West beat. I like coming out of the gate with the locks. That first song is so good.
First song's
Pa-
great.
Pair of Hammers with Method Man, like
That's
that's
great too.
even the Nas song was okay. Like it wasn't like anything.
Yeah.
But I like it so far. But like to tell everyone who's listening, you guys really did not like the like basically the second half of the record. Production
Nah,
wise, you said a lot of singing, right?
a lot of singing, man. And I get it, but I could see Ghost going that way and having that kind of shit, like sing-songy shit, especially like his background with old soul music and stuff. I get it, you know what I mean? But for me though, it just loses me right away. Like
That's why
I forget
Ghostini
anything
lost me.
good about it. Yeah.
That's why Ghostini lost me. I would always say this. I would say Ghostface never put out a bad record until Ghostini. And if you like the singing shit, maybe you fuck with that. But for us, we don't.
Yeah.
I know you and me
Uh,
don't like that. We like our chops, our chopped fucking samples. We like our cuts.
yes.
We do not want to hear an R&B hook whatsoever because it's not what we like. Um, but
Yeah. It distracts me. It took me right out of it. Like I wouldn't say the record sucks. I wouldn't say anything like that. I completely forgot how much I liked the intro tracks by the time I was getting to the mid and whatever. I was
yeah.
just like, I'm out.
So funny enough, yeah. So I'm like set like I'm at Champion Sound, which I think is like the eighth song on the record. So maybe I'll just stop there and just start over again.
Yeah, you've been rewatching Oz, but did you post that in the group
Yeah,
or was that on your page?
my page.
You watching the whole thing all the
Um,
way through, or
so
just the greatest hits?
just the greatest hits. Sometimes you just, I'm a night owl. Like I know
Mhm.
you wake up early. Sometimes I wake up and I see you posted something at like 6 or something. I'm like, wow, this
Yeah,
guy's been
been at
up.
work an hour already.
Yeah, not me. I'm just like, damn. So, I went to bed at like 2:30 last night, it's like just and I wake up by like 8, I'm like, all right, I guess I got to get up. But sometimes at night I can't concentrate on new shit. So I can't put on something that I've never seen because sometimes I'll nod off,
Sure.
but I just need something in the background. And I was just going through all the HBO stuff and I was like, I haven't seen Oz in so long. And like Dino Ortolani, do you remember that name?
Fuck yeah. Yeah, he was in the first season, right? He
He was
was
only in the first episode
it was only that's right. Yeah, yeah.
because
He got out of BC, fuck that guy, right?
Crime Apple mentioned him in a song, and when he said Dino Ortolani, I was like, why do I know that name? And then I put on the first episode of so he was like one of the Italians, but
Yes.
they like somebody set him on fire, and that's how the episode ended. So he
That dude
was
that looked like Redman set him on fire.
maybe
He had the big hat. He looked just like
yeah yeah
Redman.
yeah yeah
Somebody paid him to go in there and light the guy up. That's how the first episodes ends, I think, or something like
yes,
that.
that's how it ends.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah,
then Shabetta, you know, tries to find out what happened. I started like I'm up to like episode 5, and it really is like rewatching the whole thing because the
yeah.
only thing I remembered from that show was like the white dude that was like banging fucking Carmela Soprano, getting the
Oh,
cigarettes.
McManus,
No,
McManus.
McManus is the boss, is the head of Emerald
Yeah, he
City.
went out with her too. That's what.
Yeah, yeah, but it was the other guy. It was like I forgot. It was like the Billy Bob Thornton looking guy that was like banging her.
Oh, the guy that was a prisoner
Yeah, the prisoner.
knew her husband on the outside or something back in the
Yeah.
day. She would smuggle cigarettes in for
Cigarettes.
him.
She was getting them cigarettes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that show is it's I mean, first of all, great if you're creating a show that you can constantly introduce new characters any way you want. Oh, that guy got out of jail. That guy died. New prisoners, bring it
And
in.
the
Boom,
and the
boom,
way
boom.
they
Keep it
do
quick.
it, the way they do it's
Yeah.
cool. In the beginning, like you get that black and white flashback to how it all happened, and then he shows up,
Hmm.
prisoner 9-8, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Very good. And I
Shout out to
didn't,
Adepieces with the machete. That
I,
was the motherfucker.
I didn't realize also like the connections, because it was a Barry Levinson production, and Barry's
Yeah.
son later on, Sam Levinson, did the Euphoria show. So I mean,
I'm
he's got
pretty sure they must have just like Oz and Law and Order just shot side by side and they interchanged. Like, all right, you're on this
yeah
show this week and you're on the next one because all those guys were like
yeah.
rotated through that shit. But
It's
I
fun.
love that show because it's completely insane. It's like some of the most ridiculous plots that I've ever heard. But I was there for it, all of it. Like I was the one
I
I meant.
think,
Remember when they were aging? They took the aging pill, so
yeah.
like it would prematurely age you, and you'd serve your sentence. Like, this would never
Well,
possibly
that
happen.
was that was
It's
late. Like
insane.
later on, they really went for it. They were just like, we don't know what to do right now, and like, because I'm thinking like, I think like 18 people died every episode. Like, I'm like, nothing ever gets shut down. They're just like, people get,
McManus was the worst, the
yeah,
worst at his job ever.
he was pretty bad.
Everybody just dying constantly in there, and it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, just let this guy keep running.
that's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean that's a fun rewatch. And some other things that were covered in the group and my wall, we talked about the Lollapalooza thing on Paramount. That's gonna be fun.
Mm. Oh God, I can't wait for that.
It,
Cannot wait.
when I saw the trailer, I thought to myself, yeah, we needed that. Like it was like an overlooked thing. I'm like the Lollapalooza story. I don't know why I didn't expect I mean like we got the Woodstock 99 that no one gave a fuck about, or not that no one gave a fuck about, but we didn't know we needed. But
No,
when I saw the trailer
I
for
guess
the
that was
Lollapalooza,
more salacious.
yeah, uh,
Lollapalooza kind of was a good time.
yeah, yeah. When you
Everything
see
was
the
fine.
trailer, you see the trailer
Yeah.
for it, and you're just like, oh yeah, I'm getting 3 episodes of this. So May 21st,
Hmm.
uh, Paramount Plus is gonna, put this
How many
shit out.
years did that go before as a traveling festival? What did they get in? 7 or
So
8?
I'm gonna say I remember 90. The last one I went to was 96 because that was like towards the beginning of the end of my drug addicted life. So by
Was that
90,
the Wu-Tang year?
yeah.
Me too. That was the last one I went.
So by 97, I was like on the run from the cops. And that was like when Orbital headlined, and like there was all these like random ass like fucking because the electronic shit was popping.
Yeah, yeah.
And 98, I don't remember what that was. Let's look that up because I feel like that might have been the last one.
I
Well,
went
who
every
is it?
year. I went to the first one. I went every year, and then that last year was that Metallica one. I didn't even stay for Metallica. I wasn't into it. The crowd
Uh
was shitty to Wu-Tang. I was like, oh,
I
fuck this place, man.
yeah.
I was done.
Let me scroll. Let's see what the last thing is. Fucking Jamie. Where you at, Jamie? 95. Holy shit. So, okay. Almost there. Cancel. Oh, 2004 was canceled. It actually went like so 2003. That's weird. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they were still traveling then. It wasn't just the Chicago 3 day
Oh,
weekend thing by then.
okay. You know what? So it got all right. So 97 was the last one.
Okay,
97 was the last one. Um, let's see. Let's look here.
nine in that year was Orbital. That's what you meant.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to the lineup
Headline.
here. Um, Main stage, Orbital, Devo, The Prodigy, The Orb,
Wow,
Tool,
I've
Snoop
I've seen
Dogg,
all those bands, but not at Blues at various raves. But
and then Snoop Dogg, Tricky, and Corn.
mhm,
Uh,
weird.
James Lay, Julian Marley, and Damian Marley, and the band Failure. How funny is that?
Wow,
Not only did Failure play this, the Failure played. You ever listen to Failure?
I don't think so.
You might like that. I'll send you that. Very cool stuff. They have a record called Fantastic Planet, which was like was pretty mind blowing. Do you remember the band Autolux at all?
The name vaguely,
Yeah.
but I never heard. Yeah,
I think you dig Failure. So Failure also played the second stage. Yeah, so 97.
I was just drum and bass all full on at that point.
Yeah.
I didn't know much rock.
And then I went to after that, the one that I went to was when they did it in Chicago. That must have been like 2006
Well, didn't they do it every year there in Chicago for a while? Like it was a 3 day weekend,
for sure,
like
but
once
I
a
I
year
don't
in Chicago.
I don't know when it started. I think I went to the
Yeah,
2006 one, and the lineup was fucking just amazing. Just 3 days, very cool stuff. And that was at Grant Park. And then after that, it's just, I think from there, I think like
did you
other
camp out?
festivals. No, you out of your mind. Like camp out. I camped out in the hotel room. No, yeah. I mean, you're in the fucking middle of
Yeah,
Chicago. Not fucking, I'm not an animal.
yeah,
Um,
I'm not about that
and
fucking
then
place.
and then from there, I think what happened was like other festivals started popping up, you know? So
Yeah,
that was like when like Bonnaroo and Coachella, and like every year or every month there was like a new
right.
festival. So I felt, I'm sure maybe they'll get into it in that story. So, but once again, Paramount Plus
Yeah,
doing the
I'm
Lord's
jealous of
work.
Europe, man. Europe's got the
Uh,
fest, boy.
what else? I did you watch the Tom Brady roast?
I did. I watched it. I didn't watch it live. I did fast forward through the athletes.
Yes,
Full
me
disclosure,
too.
because I was like, I don't want to hear these guys read some jokes that somebody funny wrote for them to say. Like they're not funny, you know. So like, fuck this.
I I listened
Like
to
Bill
some.
Belichick dropping burns on people.
Yeah,
Mr. Personality.
I listened to. Well, first of all, it was live, and I don't know who saw it live, but I'm like, I didn't even know it existed till someone mentioned it. And in my head, I don't know if you did the same thing, but I was like, Netflix and roast. I'm like, I thought it was gonna be so vanilla and like garbage. And then I put it on, and I was like, oh, Kevin Hart sucks. I'm like, he's gonna be so fucking corny.
Yeah,
He's not a good roaster. And he really kind of went for it in the very beginning, with all his jokes. And I was just like, okay. I'm like, he's kind of really like,
yeah,
going in it. But I feel like he used all his best material, like in the
yo,
in the
nailed
very
it,
right in the very beginning,
dude.
because
And when he would get up after people like
oh
killed, and then he'd
God.
repeat one of their lines, like repeat it. Like you're repeating this guy's joke, what to get a piggyback laugh off their joke? Like fuck, stupid.
Or
Hated that.
maybe like to like kill time. It felt like he had somebody in his ear being like, all
Yeah,
right, 5 minutes, five
yeah.
minutes.
We
So
have to
he's
get
like,
this thing to over 3 hours. Like,
yeah,
what are you doing,
yeah.
man?
It
three
it
hours.
it was so like he was
Uh,
insufferable. Like, oh
yeah.
man, he's like, man, I can't believe you just, you know what? I was gonna burn you, but now I'm not. Like, oh man, you just got, oh God, that was so funny. Oh man, fuck you,
Fuck
Tom.
you,
Like,
Tom.
holy shit, you fucking suck so
I don't get
fucking
that
bad.
dude at all.
I I
Yeah.
mean, I'm
Your
sure.
bandwidth, I think, is coming in low. Yeah. Like freezing.
Oh, really? Let me check.
There you go. It popped up. It said you had low bandwidth for a second.
Okay. Anyway,
And now you
yeah,
look
I didn't get anything on mine.
all right.
Are we good?
Yeah.
Yeah, he just
Uh, yeah, we're good.
like they just, eh, I, he just, he came out hard, and it showed me. I'm like, okay, this is a roast because you're going attacking his wife, you're attacking everything. And I was like, okay, you set the table and everything went good. Jeff Ross went super early. I was like, who's gonna like top that? And then
Yeah.
and then later on, like Nikki Glazer just fucking killed, but it was so long.
Crushed.
And once those like athletes, whoever, I guess, if you know football, I guess you know them. But like you said, it's like you're like watching them do like whatever's written for them, and that's fine, whatever. It's not a big deal. And I just had to I fast forwarded through like fucking Belichick, Will Ferrell. But I mean, overall, if you figure if Comedy Central took it like and
Yeah.
made chopped it up into 90 minutes, pretty solid,
Height. Absolutely. Yeah.
you know.
Glazer was great. I know
Tony
you like
Hinchcliffe.
Schultz. I hate Andrew Schultz, but he killed on that
I
thing.
love Andrew Schultz.
I
Even the
hate that
bit,
dude.
even the bit that his look is really funny. But
Yeah.
even the bit that Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura did, I thought was
You
pretty
like that?
funny. I did.
Oh man, I thought that shit bombed,
Oh,
bro.
I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
I will say everyone going somewhere with Bert Kreischer is probably good because no one said a word. No one even mentioned Tom Segura was there. Did you notice that?
Never wrote. He didn't get anything. It's almost
Nothing.
kind of disrespectful to not get burned.
Well,
You know what I'm
you're
saying?
you're with Bert, and everyone's just like, Bert, you're a fucking loser. You're fucking,
That dude looks so uncomfortable and clearly on cocaine. Like
yeah.
to me,
He
and did you?
he.
And he was reading the teleprompters that everybody else was. If he's reading, mouthing, he's reading the jokes that someone's saying about him. When Hinchcliffe's going, well, look at his fat
Oh,
face
I didn't know that.
staring at it, and he's reading Hinchcliffe's like teleprompter.
That's
It's like,
funny.
dude, you're a
No,
mess. But Hinchcliffe was great.
he was good, but
Yeah.
yeah, like I what Nikki Glazer was like, man, I really love that joke that no that I really love your joke. So like basically like that one joke that you
That
have
was
is
fucking killer.
like man, you take off your shirt and it's like, God, that's so funny. It's so good. Man, you take off
Yeah.
that shirt and it's so good. Um what else did we mention? So I threw some things up in the group. We discussed this week in Facebook. I watched the Caitlin Cronenberg movie. Humane.
Yeah, I was bummed. That's in my queue. I was gonna watch, but then I saw yours. I saw a lot of other people having the same reaction as you did.
I think I think so the movie is called Humane, and it's just kind of like, like a kind of like, the world is somewhat like the resources are low, and like basically the government needs people to volunteer to be euthanized, and if you do, your family will be rewarded and all this other shit. And you see this premise and you're like, oh shit, and it's a Cronenberg and it's like it's gonna be crazy.
Uh,
It just didn't really deliver whatsoever.
yeah.
Maybe the next movie will be good, but it just was like not, it was not really what I thought it was. It's not something that anyone needs to rush to go see.
Mm.
Whenever you see it streaming, maybe check it out. I know Steve Andolfo graded it on a curve, that's for sure. He said it was just
Hmm.
black comedy, dark comedy. And then there
I'll
was
be
a movie.
honest, man. This
Yeah,
year, I thought I've seen like a lot of like when I rate my things on IMDb just to basically remember that I've seen it because I've watched so much shit. A lot of sixes this year. A lot of fives, sixes, fours. Like it hasn't been an impressive year for me. The beginning.
not yet. Did you watch
Yeah,
Shake Shack yet? Snack
not
Shack,
yet.
Snack Shack.
I'm saving that for like when I'm not like in a rush on a weekday, like Sunday afternoon. You know what I mean? Because I know I have high hopes. I'm gonna love it. So
It's very good, very very good.
yeah.
And another movie that I waited for that I don't feel bad about ruining because no one should
Hmm.
watch this movie. There was a movie that came out last year called Founders Day, and it was described as like Scream meets The Purge. The
Okay.
mask was like similar and all this other shit. Okay. It had a quick theatrical and I missed it. So I'm like, you know what? I'm here for the slashers. I'm here for this modern day slasher and something good. And it finally hit VOD. I rented it and it was fucking terrible. Just fucking terrible. Like just terrible. Like, the how do you even describe this movie? They were going for like some sort of like political angle, and it's like super clear as to like you could read in between the lines basically. It was just, but that's fine, whatever, it doesn't really matter.
Is it a
But
Bloomhouse movie?
no.
It sounds like
uh
it would be.
yeah, no, no, no. So just, these this girl, she she is being there's basically a killer killing the kids of this town, and it's just, I what can you say about this stupid fucking movie? By the time you get to the plot twist, and it looks nice, it looks good, it's well made, it's not like low budget or anything. By the time you get to the reveal, and you know what it is too, like I wish if a movie was going to be this dumb, it was slow. So,
Mhm.
and if you're gonna be slow, you got to be good at something else. And they weren't good at, like, every character was like cartoonish. So I didn't know if they
Yeah.
were trying to be like an '80s like spoof or like something a little bit more cerebral. Like it was really hard to tell from the characters because
Y-
it's like,
Your review was so passionately hating on it. Like I immediately just took it. I have this, an IMDb list of everything coming out this year that I'm just so I don't forget. Oh yeah, I wanted to see that. Or whatever. I just like delete. This has no redeeming. The only movie I think I've seen you come out that hard against was there was a
it's
Christmas
a
one I
wonderful
think that
knife.
came out.
It's a wonderful knife.
Yes, yeah,
So
that you had it.
as soon as me and Karen were done watching this, I said, "This is the worst movie since It's a Wonderful Knife."
You had
It
the
was
same
just
heat for it. Yeah.
unfucking believably bad. That movie, wow, It's a Wonderful Knife was just even worse. It was like so pandering. Like, I'm all for, we're as liberal as it gets. When you have 10
Sure.
characters and 8 of them are gay, I'm just like, what are we doing? Like, I have no idea. Like, you're crowbarring things just to crowbar them. Like, I have no idea. It's like, oh, we have,
Yeah.
the like it's like how about you just write a story and then you include
Mhm.
parts? let it be like a little bit normal.
That's
Um,
what all those kind of like just there's nothing wrong with subtlety. It actually delivers points like more. Don't beat me over the head with like an agenda, you
you
know?
are they it's I'll, I'll just say It's a Wonderful Knife bludgeons you over the head with I don't even like I'm like why am I here watching this? So this other movie, same thing. By the time you get when you get to the reveal, it's Scream. The dialogue, it's literally Scream. Like it's exactly everything that she's saying. Oh, sorry.
Mhm.
All right, whatever. I ruined it. Everything that this person is saying,
You did everyone a favor.
I did everyone a favor. Is just
Yeah,
this is definitely one of the worst movies ever. But if you want to watch it, go watch Founders Day.
it's
You know?
it's like how I use Wikipedia when I'm watching a real piece of shit, but it's shitty. It's really shitty, but like it's not shitty enough that I don't totally care what happens. Wikipedia plot. I'm like, all right, boom, 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 boom. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, the plot's great for that.
Out.
Yeah, because we could still like I'm trying to think of something that I didn't love, but I thought like the movie The Seeding that I think I mentioned on the last episode. That was not the best movie, but it was still worth watching. Like there's still some like uncomfortable scenes. It was still good enough to watch. This movie, I'm like, wow, so bad. So what else did we cover this week? Anything? Oh, you want to know the funny conversation? So speaking of,
What's
of
that?
hot water music, I mentioned on Facebook this week. I have a friend TJ who's been on the show like two or three times, and he's a big Beach Boys Pet Sounds fan. And
Okay.
just trolled him because first of all, I love hot water music, but like I know he loves Pet Sounds. And I sent him a hot water music link, and I was like, "Find me a song on Pet Sounds that's better than this song." And he just like he couldn't help himself, so he called me, and we were on the phone for like 45 minutes, and he's just like he couldn't comprehend it. And I'm thinking like, you ever talk to people that feel like when I put it up on Facebook, like maybe Jeff Kaplan or someone said, "Well, without Pet Sounds, it would be no hot water music." I'm thinking like that doesn't make it better. Just because it's like, well, without Psycho, there is no Halloween. Like, okay, what does that
Mhm.
mean? So any movie that I've seen since they came out since 1960 doesn't matter because it's not Psycho. Like, I hate when people
Exactly.
reference something like, yeah, well, without this album, there is no this album, so therefore this album's better. And it's like, that's not how math works. You like one or you like the other. That's it.
You can give something a tip to the cat. You
Yeah.
know, okay, I respect where it came from, but yeah, of course,
Yeah.
I get it.
But there was a beauty in because when you're older and we're older guys, we like what we like.
Yeah,
I'm not like 15 being like, oh, I really don't want to have this like conflict about an album with someone who knows this album. At our age now, I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I'm like, I love this album. And
yeah,
sure, the Beach Boys, I guess, are okay, but like, I don't give a fuck. I get the importance of Pet Sounds. I get it. But
yeah. I
oh,
respect that band. I respect what they did. They were never my cup of tea, really, at all. Uh, I read books on them because Brian Wilson's story is fascinating, and as an artist, I respect how prolific it was, but just musically, they, you know, just never did it for me.
yeah. So it's just like you could, like you said,
Beach
you could,
Boys were the hero to most, but they never meant shit to me.
yeah, it's
That's what I
straight up
meant to say.
racist. All right. So in closing here, one of the last things that we mentioned. Oh, before
Yeah.
we get to this worst sequels from best movies, uh,
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna mention the movie Crank. When was the last time you watched Crank?
Never,
Oh, you
believe it
never
or not.
saw it?
No,
Oh my
no. You made
God,
me
you
want to be like, oh, you know what? I got to get on.
oh you gotta watch it. So
Yeah.
both of them are up on HBO.
There's only two?
Yeah,
God, why?
I forgot how much fun these movies were. it's super frantic. You know, it's do
I
you know the
know the
premise?
premise is what he's got to like maintain like a heart rate or something or
He got
something.
he got poisoned and he's just trying to locate the person who poisoned him. And but yeah,
Okay.
he they gave him some sort of thing that's supposed to kill him, but he realizes along the way that adrenaline keeps his heart going. So he
Hmm.
does all these things. And the movie, the watching the movie, it's almost like watching the movie Spun. Remember Spun?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So it's really like just a fucking like there is no breaks on this movie. It's just go 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 go. It might be aside from like the Guy Ritchie stuff, it might be my favorite like Jason Statham stuff. Aside from like the Meg
Really.
2.
Meg 2 was fucking awesome, man.
I'm just kidding. I know
It
you
was
like it.
good.
I know.
It was good. The first one was horrible. But
Aside from
listen,
the beekeeper.
Statham, oh man.
But no, so yeah, I just watched it recently.
Hmm.
It just you know, like I mentioned on the last episode, I have been trying to pay homage to older things that I haven't seen in a while. And there is, the adoration for the 90s, the adoration for the 80s, but sometimes that 2000 to 2000 like 10, there was a lot of stuff in there
Mm,
that I never really revisit, and
you're right.
I wanted to like revisit, and a lot of things pop
I
up
think
on.
it was, you know what? I think that look of films in that era, I don't care for sometimes. They had a
It,
certain look to them,
they were
especially in
still
the
trying to get
early
it right.
2000s. Yeah.
They were still trying to get it right.
Yeah. But I'm
Um,
sold. I'm gonna check Crank out. Maybe my son will watch that thing.
cool. So I remember a long time ago, in closing here, somebody posted, or maybe I posted the article. I don't remember. Um, an article called "The Worst Sequels from the
Mm,
Best Movies." I was like, oh, interesting, because I always said the same thing. The number one movie makes a lot of sense, which is Jaws 4, The Revenge. And that's taken from Jaws. And Jaws is like one of the greatest movies of all time. But Jaws 4 is just just how do you get from one to
mm.
four? It's just unbelievable. So I was going to
I
go
mean,
through.
3 is pretty fucking terrible too.
Well, I don't care about two or three whatsoever.
Yeah. 2 is like watchable.
Sure.
I mean, they're
And
all watchable in a fun. Some of them are just so. I mean, they're so insane. They're kind of funny, But go ahead. Yeah.
I was
So
just
they're
going to
saying
say,
sequels, though. They're saying anything in the franchise, not just
sure.
like part one, two. I got
No,
you.
yeah. And I feel like three was
Yeah.
bad, but
Mhm.
four was like holding my beer, you know? It was just like, I'm gonna,
Yeah.
we're gonna ruin it. So on the list, it had the Mummy,
I,
Tomb of the Dragon Emperor.
I never saw the Mummy either.
Oh, the Mummy's really good. So
Yeah.
the first one's really good. The next on the list is Star Trek: The Final Frontier.
Hmm.
So I think that's number 5. So did you watch any of those Star Trek movies?
Uh, I saw them all when they came out. My memory of all of them. I wasn't a big Star Trek guy. I
Yeah,
remember
same.
Wrath of Khan was my favorite by far.
I liked
But
4 just because
yeah.
4 brought them to San Francisco. It brought them to like modern day.
Right.
So as a kid, I identified. I'm like, oh, I know this. This is cool.
Right.
So but yeah. So I think everyone says the even numbers are the good ones, so 2, 4, and 6.
Yep.
So apparently that's bad. I don't remember Speed 2 Cruise Control. That's the next on the
I
list.
do.
You do?
I fucking terrible. That Jason Patrick, right?
So Jason,
Substituted in there, and
yeah, and
it was a
Willem
boat
Dafoe.
instead of a bus, right?
Yeah, and Willem Dafoe, right, was the other guy. It
Yes.
it was
Yeah.
like it
Yeah.
was like the same thing, and Sandra Bullock, like they're doing like I don't know why they did it.
The same thing with a different vehicle. I mean,
And
it was
you,
just
yo, you remember when Speed came out though? Like no one thought anything of it, but when you watch it, you're like, this is pretty fucking good,
yeah. That movie
right?
crushed.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
like you're
That
like,
was a big
oh,
fucking.
this is an interesting plot. So going
Jason
for
Patrick is just like that guy. Never is like leading man material.
you
He's
know
boring as shit. Something about him. I don't know.
the lineage. I didn't know he was Jackie Gleason's grandson.
Um,
His dad is in the Exorcist.
Look at that.
Uh, yeah, he's pretty well
It's
connected.
all who you know. I always
Uh,
love when people talk about nepotism in Hollywood and like, oh, look who his dad is, or look at that. I'm like, ask 9 times out of 10. Like, I'll tell you right now, like, how did I get my job? I knew a guy
yeah,
that worked at the job and he got me. Everybody gets jobs like
yeah.
that. Get the fuck out of here. Shut up.
Fuck out of here. Everything you do, you can go talk to anyone. Like,
Yeah.
yo, how'd you get in fucking Bank of America? It's like, oh yeah, like I know this guy.
Yeah.
So continuing the worst movies from the best, worst sequels from the best movies. Bad Santa 2, which I don't even remember, but I loved
I
Bad
don't either.
Santa 1.
Of course. I don't remember it either. And actually I was shocked to see that Billy Bob was like in it. I would have thought he'd even return for something like that, you know?
Yeah, sometimes these sequels make it out, and I'm just like, like SLC Punk, the second one. Did you ever watch it?
I didn't even like the first one, I'll be honest with you.
Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Next on the list, Halloween Ends.
Yeah. Fuck that movie. I know you love it.
I do. I only love it because it's so fucking stupid. I appreciate the stupidity.
But
The
there's
ne
worse Halloweens, maybe. You
Yeah,
know,
for
you could throw
sure.
Resurrection in there or what, you know.
Well, because so when we posted this, Nick, Greystone mentioned that he's like Resurrection. I'm like, yeah, but I think people beat up on Resurrection enough, and I think Halloween Ends is like just fresh on the brain.
Hmm.
The next on the list is a good one, Wall Street. Uh, Money Never Sleeps. I don't know what it is about Shia LaBeouf. Anytime he enters a franchise, I feel like people just don't like him.
Yeah.
So
He's
he
he's a talent, but he didn't do himself any favors in a lot of respects. They just make
he
somebody that everyone wants to hit now, kind of, when you see his face.
Because in theory, you're like, okay, this kid was in the sequel to Wall Street and he
Hmm.
was in the sequel to Indiana Jones. And both of them, like, you would never think that those movies would fail, but
I
they
think in an
did.
alternate universe, he could have had like a DiCaprio career. It
Yeah.
just, I don't know, it didn't work out. Well, he's
Uh,
still young, but
the next on the list is a movie that I think we both watched, Ghostbusters Afterlife.
atrocious. But they must have wrote this article before Frozen Empire came out, which was even stupider and shittier than Afterlife.
I'm waiting for the $20 to drop because I still love the trailer, but
So
everyone that
don't
watched it,
don't you pay a nickel for that shit, Sam. I'm telling you right now. I'm
yeah,
telling you. Yeah. It's
Afterlife.
like let's take this story and then let's just I mean, it's a mess. It's a fucking mess. Just throwing shit, it's a mess. But
Okay.
I'm curious to eventually when you see it, you know.
Is it worse than Satan's Little Helper?
Yeah, because it
Okay.
had a lot more money and they could have probably done something right. But
uh close Getting close to the end here. Jurassic World Dominion.
mm, which
Um
one was that? Oh,
so
well,
that
2022. Yeah.
was the last one. And I think it might have been like the sixth. I saw it in theaters only because my girlfriend is such a big fan of the franchise. She's like, I want to go see this. So we watched it, and I didn't think it was that bad, but like I have no attachment to it. So to me, I just sat there eating popcorn, watching dinosaurs and Bryce
Since the
Dallas
first
Howard.
one, I
I'm like,
don't
all
think
right,
I've enjoyed any of them. I don't think I've seen them all either, but
now we're getting down to the good stuff. The next Karate Kid with Hilary Swank,
blank. Yeah.
1994.
Is she going to show up in Cobra Kai at some point?
I think
I
so.
mean,
I
they've
think
touched everything else, right?
Yeah, I don't see how they don't just crowbar her in. Okay, so number six here, The Exorcist Believer,
Oof.
right?
Yep.
You saw it.
Terrible. I mean, I haven't seen The Heretic in a long time, part two, but I remember how horrible that was. And this movie just, it's so bad. It has no redeeming qualities. And the audacity of it's such a love-hate thing with with McBride and that crew. David Gordon Green and whatnot, like how they can make some of my favorite comedies maybe that I've ever seen, like Eastbound and Down and Vice Principals and
Righteous Gemstones.
Gemstones. And then to, I wasn't entirely in love with the Halloween shit they did. I was at first, and then it came to a
Yeah,
bitter end. And then when we're gonna take this other franchise, we're like some saviors or some shit. And it was so, I love that it bombed so bad and everyone hated it that they abandoned they were gonna do like two more of these
they
fucking
were gonna
movies.
do a trilogy, and they were like, yeah. So they were like, nah, again,
Yeah,
not happening, son.
yeah.
Number five, Blues Brother 2000.
Mm.
Never saw that one.
Haven't seen it in years, but it wasn't good.
Number four, A Good Day to Die Hard, which I never saw.
I didn't see that either.
Number three, The Sting 2.
Never
Jackie
saw
Gle
either one of those.
Speaking of Jackie Gleason, um, number two, Staying Alive. Uh,
Never. I've seen clips of that, but I'm not. I mean, I saw Saturday Night Fever because you're supposed to. Like, if you're in the film, you might have, you're gonna a lot of it was heralded and stuff, and it was a
yeah.
cultural landmark at one point. But I was never
Sure.
that into it that I'd sit through that. Sylvester Stallone created Staying Alive.
And
Right, he did
number,
that movie, right?
I don't even remember.
Yeah.
Number one is what we mentioned, Jaws 4, The Revenge. Michael
Yes.
K. Michael K. and Mario Van Peebles with a fake accent for whatever reason. I don't really know, but
So it's just, I mean, listen, a shark sentiently followed a family from like up by Massachusetts out to the Caribbean. They heard
yeah,
they were going on vacation. He knew
yeah,
what their flight was.
yeah.
Fucking jetted down there.
That's
Same.
it.
And the only movie I remember when they kill it at the end, it
Yep.
makes a noise. It's like, ah, and it like roared or something, which fish don't do.
This one did so, but I thought that was a fun list.
That was,
That covers this week in Facebook.
yeah,
A lot of stupid posts in the group, a lot of topics that we got to break down a little bit more. And
sure.
the next time you see or hear us, we will be doing some hip hop stuff. So,
Hmm.
all right, you've said it
You
all.
said it all.
I'm gonna go see Sebastian Bach in a little bit. So,
Nice.
I'm hoping he could still tie his dick in a knot. So I'll let you know. I'll let you know if that's still a thing.
I hope to God for your sake that he makes the fans happy. And is he supporting a new record? Has he got a new album out, right?
I think he has a
You
new
know,
song out. I don't know if people like that do albums anymore. So I'm hoping
yeah.
he's
We're
got
gonna
to
play.
know.
This is an album. All my blues influences me covering.
He's got to know. He's got to know.
Yeah, he'll get the hit.
Yeah,
He'll do the right
we're
thing.
getting some quicksand Jesus tonight. That's for sure. All right, man. So we'll
All right,
talk
dude. Later.
later.